People came to the Titanic for reasons far more personal than the newspapers ever mentioned. The ship was praised for its engineering, size, and supposed invincibility, but the passengers boarding it carried hopes and pressure that had nothing to do with steel or rivets. The upper decks filled with people who believed the voyage would reinforce their importance. The lower decks filled with people hoping it would lead them somewhere better. Between these two groups stretched a ship designed to embody progress. Yet it contained the same old problems that exist wherever humans gather: inequality, expectation, pride, and fear. Rose DeWitt Bukater arrived with the posture of someone used to being watched. Her clothes, her engagement, her manner, all were chosen for her, not by her. Her family's social status was fading, and her mother saw Rose's marriage to Cal Hockley as the solution. Rose understood the arrangement clearly, even though no one said it outright. She was expected to play her part, maintain appearances, and secure the family's future. She looked composed, but she lived under pressure that grew heavier each day. Cal was the sort of man shaped from entitlement. He moved through the ship as though the world itself was an extension of his wealth. He treated people as positions on a board, some useful, some beneath notice. He wasn't outwardly monstrous. He was simply so accustomed to getting his way that he couldn't imagine a scenario where someone else's autonomy mattered. Rose, positioned beside him, felt like decoration rather than a partner. To most observers, she had everything. To her, it felt like being trapped inside a life chosen by someone else. In third class, Jack Dawson boarded not because of ambition but because he won a ticket minutes before departure. He had no steady income and no fixed idea of what his future should look like. What he did have was adaptability. Life had taught him not to rely on long-term plans, and he accepted this reality without resentment. For him, the ship was transportation and little more. His experiences made him pragmatic, grateful for a warm meal, quick to form a joke, and comfortable in the company of people who had also been dealt uneven hands. The Titanic settled into its voyage with an atmosphere of pride mixed with routine. First-class passengers moved through ornate dining rooms with practiced elegance, discussing art, investments, and gossip. Second-class passengers observed them with a mix of admiration and distance. Below, third-class passengers shared meals that were simple but hearty and filled their evenings with lively conversation. The ship was divided, not by physical walls alone, but by long-standing beliefs about who deserved what. Rose spent her days participating in rituals she didn't enjoy: polite meals, afternoon teas, walks on deck accompanied by judgmental glances from her mother. She performed her duties flawlessly, but beneath the surface she felt pressure building. Her life looked perfect on paper, yet it felt unbearably rigid. She wasn't seeking rebellion. She was seeking room to breathe. One night, overwhelmed by the sensation of being cornered, she walked alone toward the ship's stern. The cold air shocked her senses. She found herself standing at the railing, not because she wanted to die, but because she didn't know where else to put her despair. Her thoughts spiraled, unfocused and tense. She wasn't dramatic by nature, just exhausted. Jack happened to see her from a distance. He recognized the body language of someone on the edge of something dangerous. He approached cautiously, speaking with the straightforward concern of someone who had witnessed real hardship. Their exchange wasn't poetic or emotional. It was pragmatic. She was startled, embarrassed, defensive, but his presence drew her back to the moment. It was an accidental intersection of two lives that should never have crossed, yet the encounter grounded her in a way she hadn't expected. After that night, they spoke a few more times. Their conversations were ordinary but honest. Rose appreciated the simplicity of being seen as a person instead of a symbol. Jack listened without expectation. He didn't try to rescue her from her life. He just treated her like someone capable of her own thoughts. In a setting defined by social performance, that small human connection mattered. Cal and Ruth noticed subtle changes in Rose. They didn't understand them, but they sensed her slipping from the role assigned to her. Their reactions were predictable: tighten control, increase pressure, remind her of what she owed. Neither recognized that their attempts to confine her were the cause of her unrest. Meanwhile, the ship pushed deeper into colder waters. Ice warnings were delivered to the bridge. But warnings are easy to ignore when the world assures you that you're untouchable. The crew continued their duties with routine confidence. Passengers slept, socialized, and played cards. Danger, when quiet, is often mistaken for nothing at all. The collision with the iceberg was subtle. Many passengers felt nothing at all. But below the surface, where steel met ice, the damage was catastrophic. When the officers realized the truth that the ship would not stay afloat, they faced not just the physics of the disaster, but the enormous responsibility of managing human behavior in crisis. Announcements spread unevenly. First-class passengers heard quickly, though many dismissed the danger at first. Some were annoyed by the disruption. Third-class passengers received little information and faced locked gates and unclear directions. The inequality built into the ship's design suddenly became a matter of life and death. As panic grew, human nature revealed itself in unfiltered form. Some passengers helped strangers. Others shoved past them. Crew members tried to maintain order, but were overwhelmed by confusion. Lifeboats were launched half full because of fear, miscommunication, and the mistaken belief the ship would stay afloat long enough to fill them later. Jack and Rose moved through the chaos with urgency. Their cooperation didn't stem from dramatic devotion, but from practical necessity. Jack was familiar with quick decision-making, and Rose found that fear sharpened her understanding rather than paralyzed her. They navigated rising water, blocked corridors, and frantic crowds simply to stay alive. The class divide became stark. First-class passengers boarded lifeboats early. Many third-class passengers were trapped, delayed, or ignored. In disaster, people cling to familiar structures even when the structures themselves are collapsing. The ship tilted, the lights flickered, and panic turned into raw desperation. When the final section of the ship rose out of the water, people clung to anything they could. No amount of wealth or etiquette could shield them from the cold Atlantic. Jack and Rose entered the water along with hundreds of others. The ocean was so cold that survival measured itself in minutes. Jack found floating debris that could support Rose's weight, but he couldn't save himself from the cold. Many others around them died in the same way, quietly, quickly, without headlines. By the time the lifeboats returned to search for survivors, the sea was mostly silent. Rose was pulled into one of the boats, barely conscious, not through heroic endurance but through the thin margin that separates life from death in freezing water. When the Carpathia picked up the survivors, the atmosphere on deck was heavy with shock. People processed the tragedy in different ways. Some sobbed, others stared blankly, others clung to the nearest person because their families were gone. Rose walked among them unnoticed. Without her jewelry or fine clothes, no one recognized her. And for the first time this anonymity felt like freedom. She did not return to Cal or to her mother. She slipped away quietly because she understood that surviving the sinking only to return to her previous life would be another form of drowning. She stepped into her future without certainty but with agency. Years later, when she revisited the wreck site in old age, she remembered not a grand romance but the stark truth of what happened. How humans behave when stripped of status, how lives change in a single night, and how survival forces people to reshape themselves. The Titanic sank because people believed nothing could sink it, but its story endured because it revealed human nature in its rawest form: fear, courage, selfishness, generosity, and the quiet decisions that define a life.